So we call it the changing face of billionaires, and the reason for that is there's been a few very important developments over the last 20 years. The first one you've alluded to, which is since 1995, over half of the billionaires we saw then are no longer on the list anymore.
What happened? What happened to them? How can wealth be destroyed so quickly? Actually, I know the answer. Stock markets, right, for one.
Well, you think so. Making $1 billion is the easy part. It's actually keeping hold of it. So what's been the cause of that wealth destruction? The biggest one has been business failure, which is actually that money's simply been lost through bad decisions. Though, of course, death and also family dilution are also pretty high on the list as well.
Is there something, billionaire today, the way they accumulate that wealth, the way it's made, and the kind of names that are coming to light, it's very different than, say, a quarter century ago, isn't it?
Absolutely.
We're not talking legacy or dynastic succession anymore. That is not the surefire, well, maybe it's a surefire way, but it is not the new way, is it?
I think you're absolutely right, and here we can really dive into one of the other factors we've seen, which is what we call the Athena factor, the rise of the female billionaire, particularly acute in Asia. That 50% of female billionaires in Asia are self-made. Compare that to, say, Europe, which is a far kind of older economy, that's less than 10%.
Where did that come from? That bit, should I be surprised that the female is that the right word, participation rate, luckout rate, achievement rate in the billionaire rankings? Is that a surprise at all? I mean, we have discussions about how women are underutilized in places like Japan, how they can't even get their careers going because they're discriminated against. There's gender discrimination in terms of building careers.
I think it's definitely a sign of changing social attitudes. When we take the aggregate data, since 1995, you've seen the number of female billionaires increase by 6.5 times. That's outpacing the number of males that have increased by just over 5 times. Out here in Asia, even more acute because you've got the change in social attitudes coming together with the economic growth. In the last 10 years alone, the number of female billionaires is up by more than 8 times here in Asia.
Right, and that's self-made. I mean, is that ideas, gestation of ideas that just pops up? I'm just kind of wondering how this DNA and how the sort of the mindset has changed in this way.
Absolutely. So that's over 50% of Asian female billionaires are self-made, and over 95% of them identify as wealth creators within the family, which means that they are driving wealth going forward as well. That's very interesting, very diverse compared to the Western world, where a far greater percentage of female billionaires actually relate to either charitable causes or they relate to family governance rather than wealth creation.
Can I ask you this might seem like a bit of a funny question in a way, but you look at a place like China, okay? I'm just setting an example right now, and we know for some time that they're doing an audit of everybody and their behavior, whether they're in private sector, government, or whatever. It's the whole Xi Jinping, crackdown on, any illusions, not just graft and corruption itself, but illusions of it. It's involved like a big property conglomerate called Fosun in recent days. It's been all in the headlines. Are women less apt to this? Are they less apt to audits? Are they such a new thing that, Xi Jinping crackdowns, they don't know what to do with the emerging wealth that's being controlled by the female set in Asia?
It's a good question. I think
I know it wasn't part of this research. I'm just putting it out there.
I think that there's probably 2 answers. The first is obviously that China is creating billionaires extremely quickly. We're looking at 1 new billionaire every week being created. So there's plenty of people for the authorities to look at. When it comes to females, and are they less likely to be involved in such conversations going forward? What we see in our data is they're a lot more conservative in their behaviour when it comes to investing. So what they do is tends to be far more balanced portfolios, far more geared towards fixed income as well.
Right.
So that kind of change in attitude probably also has an influence on.
By the way, demographics, are billionaires getting younger? Just curious. Quick last one.
Definitely not.
No.
When we take a look at billionaires in aggregate, we've got over 2/3 of them are over 60, and 3/4 of them have 2 children or more.
Right.
So we're right in the wealth transition corridor, and that means dilution for billionaires.
Okay, so 31 years like Mark Zuckerberg giving away their wealth at such a tender age, still exception rather than the rule.